We had the trend of customers wanting to bring their own packaging materials in, and we needed to provide an alternative for them. Well, then we quickly became all if we may as well do it for everyone and do our bit for improving the environment.
This is the Australian Butchers Guild podcast, brought to you by Meat and Livestock Australia, the podcast for passionate butchers.
G'day and welcome to the Australian Butchers Guild podcast. I'm your host, Doug Piper. This podcast is where we champion the craft, the community and the future of butchery. Today we're heading to Adelaide to chat with Sam Burt from Windsor Meats. Sam's one of the first butchers in Australia to sell beef that has been fed asparagopsis. Now, asparagopsis is a natural product made from seaweed and it reduces the amount of methane cows produce. So if you're in South Australia, drop by, say g'day to Sam and the team and check out another really well set up butcher shop. Welcome, Sam.
Thanks, Doug. Thanks for having me.
No worries, mate. Look, mate, I really enjoyed catching up with you last week in Adelaide, mate. And I really love that shop of yours. That's the second time I've been in there and it never changes. It's such a beautiful shop to walk into.
Yeah, thank you, mate. Yeah, we've, sort of pride ourselves on the presentation of the shop. Sort of, something we're big on is people are always shopping with their eyes before they're shopping with their stomachs. So clean, nice shop is important.
Very much so. So tell us about your journey into butchery and how Windsor Meats came to life.
Yeah, sure. So mine's probably a little bit of a different story, but my parents used to shop at Windsor Meats when I was a kid, and I'd always go in and visit Lynn and Lou and get a bit of Fritz, and became quite good friends with them over the years. Well, my parents did, I should say. So much so that when I finished school, the opportunity to have a casual job while I had a gap year before I went to uni, that sort of came up and quite enjoyed it and worked for that full year after school, pretty much full time in the butcher shop. And Lou, actually, my business partner, had a couple of shops at the time and I sort of was in one of them. And then throughout going to uni, continued working in the butcher shop, studied architecture at uni and didn't really enjoy it along the way. First year was, just put it down to first year blues and kept plodding away with it. Second year, much the same, wasn't overly enjoying it, but thought, okay, maybe working in the industry might help, and started working in an architect's firm one day a week while still working in the butcher shop. Yeah, and that sort of was still the same. Wasn't really enjoying it. Thought, this isn't really for me. But by that stage, got to the end, I was very close to finishing my bachelor's degree and thought, well, I may as well get that done, get that ticked off and then decide what I'm going to do after that. Lou sort of approached me towards the end of that year and said, oh, mate, we while you're trying to figure out what you're doing, we need an extra hand. So if you want to work a bit more and earn some money while you're trying to figure it out, we'll gladly keep you on. And then that sort of turned, a few months down the track, it sort of turned into, well, you're here, you may as well get your apprenticeship. You've probably done half of it already anyway. Sort of tick that box as well. And towards the end of the apprenticeship, sort of, the conversation turned towards potentially buying into the business and making it, what my life is now.
Here we are today.
Yeah, that's it.
And the shop, I believe, was located in a different area of the suburb of Malvern, was it?
It was, yeah. So not too far away, a few streets down in a street called, funnily enough, Windsor Street. And it was established in 1937 and then moved to our current location in 1985 after the owner at the time, I believe his last name was Stone. I went along to a meat industry night and the question was posed to him, you've got to put yourself in your customer's shoes. And, if you were the customer of your shop, would you walk into your shop? And he took that pretty literally and said, actually, you know what? No, I wouldn't. So the opportunity for him to move it to its current location came up and he did that in 1985. And then my business partner, Lou, took over in 1989 and sort of, really grew it to what it is today and grew the reputation of what Windsor Meats is in South Australia. Yeah, and then I sort of came along in 2006, started working there and then became a partner in the business in maybe 2015, I think it was. So
yeah, right. A nice story behind that. Going back to starting your first memories of a butcher shop, and I think a lot of butchers have a similar sort of story. My grandparents did at Clarence Park, and they had that's in South Australia for those that are uneducated. And they lived across the road from a butcher shop run by Mr. Dawes. And I remember going in there and looking at him waiting to hand me that piece of Fritz every time, And also for those uneducated people, Fritz is similar to Devon. Well, actually, it's better than Devon, and it's better than Strasbourg. So
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, we've actually got a little bit of a unique product, even a little bit further than that. We've got it made up into a little sausage. So it's a little bit easier to just quickly grab some out the window, and the kids find it appealing to have a little sausage they can chew on while mum or dad's doing the shopping.
Yeah. I think some butchers sort of give them a little Frankfurt as well, rather than a slice of Fritz or whatever. But are you making them yourself, or?
No, we don't know. We're not where small goods isn't something we're big in. We sort of cover all the basics, but leave that one up to the experts.
While I was in your shop, you got a really good range of products there, and I like the way you've set it out in the different categories like your beef, lamb, pork, chicken, blah, blah, blah. And the value add side of it, you've got a lot of products in there too. So how do your customers... Obviously, they're all popular. You're not going to stick something in the window that's not going to sell. But what would be one of your better products that you've come up with over the years and has been a real hit with them?
A lot of our product range is, like you said, that value add. We would have probably less than 10% of the trays in the window that are, what I would call sort of, your basic cuts of meat. So whether it's steaks, anything like that. The big thing is, how can we make products that people can take home, chuck in the oven or chuck on the pan, and make it feel like they've got a home cooked meal without having to go to the effort of going to every little part of it along the way. So yeah, for us, like our probably our most popular product is a beef zucchini meatball. We call it a beef mince base, zucchinis, carrots, onions, parsley, pasta sauce, cheddar and Parmesan cheese, and a little bit of a sausage meal that we use to bind it. And it's simply that. There's nothing else in it. There's been many places that have tried to replicate that product over the years, and we've watched from afar, and they go out of their way to, rather than sticking to the core good quality ingredients, they try and make it a bit cheaper and do some things to it that just quality is what brings people back time and time again.
That's one of the products, those zucchini burgers or the meatballs were the ones that were the thing that stood out to me, because I know zucchinis are, they're pretty much a lot of moisture in them. So
that's right. Yep.
You've obviously got that down to a T, making theirs without having too much moisture.
Well, it's funny, different times of the year we actually do have to, sort of gauge how much moisture is in the zucchinis. So
yeah, right.
Certain times of the year we're using a few less. Summertime, probably using a few more. Yeah, and it's forever just fine-tuning that recipe.
It's a good way of introducing vegetables into the children's diets too, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. That was the theory behind it originally when Lou came up with the recipe. Kids are inherently lazy, so they don't want to chew. So things like mince and meatballs are obviously a good option, but it's got the things in there that they like your sauce and cheese, and that gives it the flavour. But it's got all the veggies in there as well, which, the parents, I know parents, I'm a parent too, you struggle sometimes to get those in.
I hear you. I'm out of that stage now, thank goodness. So my kids eat what they eat now. Any other products that you do there that stand out? Anything else there?
We do a lot of ready to cook stir fries and casseroles and those sort of things. So people can take them home, bang it straight in the oven or slow cooker. They don't have to add anything, but we sort of do chat to them and say, hey, if you do want to add something, this is, how you can sort of customize it a little bit and change it up a little bit. Yeah, and the stir fry is obviously straight in the pan, nice high heat. And again, same thing. You can add as much or as little as you want to it, and they're quick and easy.
Yeah.
Yep.
We've seen a lot of shops over the years get less and less traditional cuts or raw meat cuts in the window, and value adds growing. And it's for a reason, because like you pointed out before, people are, it's convenience.
Absolutely.
And if you look at the big retailers out there, the majors, they're heading more and more that way every day. So one of the things I like to do is always stick my head into a Coles or a Woolies and have a look at what they're doing. And over the years, we've seen more and more fresh value add product, and now they're really hitting on those cooked lines as well. So it's an opportunity there for butchers to sort of use what intel those guys get, because they're not going to stick something on the shelf that doesn't sell.
Absolutely, yeah. There's nothing wrong with getting inspiration from them. They spend a lot of time and money figuring these things out. It's good to lean on, to have a look at what they're doing, and then just take it back and get it to fit for how your shop works and what your customers want.
Trends are also a really important part, watching what's going on in food service and what people are sort of looking at eating these days, because butchers are in a position where you can make a change tomorrow, whereas supermarkets, they normally take anywhere from 6 to 18 months, maybe 2 years before they can develop a product and get it on shelf. They start off with a trial, then they take it off for a while, and then they obviously perfect it, well, get it as close to as what they need possible, and then on the shelf. So, butchers can do it tomorrow. That's the beauty of it.
It's funny because it's something that we continuously battle with is, when we sort of listening to customers and what they're wanting. If we start getting repeat queries about a certain product or a certain way of doing things, we'll look to change it. But then, even though we've got quite a big shop, sometimes it is far out. We could use a bit more room just to squeeze a few more products in. But and unfortunately, sometimes you can't get rid of things too because people keep coming back for them.
It is a big window. It's a big shop. How many meters is that case? Do you know?
That would be sort of 30, I would think. Yeah, something like that.
For a visual, it's like a big U shape. It goes around the shop. You've got 2 shops there, isn't it? 2 shops side by side.
Yeah, the retail space. Originally, the shop was when Lou took over in 1989. It was just one individual shop. He then, the late 90s, early 2000s, took over the shop next door and expanded the butcher shop. And now that's still in those 2 shops is where the retail space is. And we've now expanded into a 3rd shop, but purely for our refrigeration and dry storage and that sort of thing in that area to allow us to grow the retail space and have a few more options out there for people.
One of the proteins I don't see a lot out there is veal, and that's one thing I noticed hanging in your room. You had a number of little calves in there. How does that go?
For us, it's probably one of the products we are known for, and doing true young baby calves as well. I know we've been very fortunate that we've been taught the correct way to process them and how to maximize what we can out of them, because if you don't know what you're doing, they can be quite wasteful at times. So knowing what to do with them and how to process them is a big part of it. We do sort of this time of year, probably half a dozen a week. It's not many, but they probably lend themselves more to some winter cuts. So things like your ossobuco and veal chops and those sort of things are big in the winter time. But yeah, for us, it's veal schnitties all year round, those sort of things.
Who are the customers that buy veal?
I was thinking about this the other day, actually. Funnily enough, we don't do a lot of value add with the veal. And I think it is because people who are coming in for it are traditionally probably foodies who want to do some more traditional cuts and those sort of things and make it their own. It's something we don't do a lot of value add with, but yeah, we've got it all the time.
I don't see a lot of the real veal, those, what are they, about 30 kilo calves or something like that?
Yeah. Sometimes, 25 to 30, yeah.
Yeah, we don't see a lot of that around these days, but it's, I don't know what the demand would be like. There's that old feel-good sort of thing about veal. It's, baby beef, which it is baby beef, but it's generally out of the dairy industry.
It is, yeah, a byproduct of what they do. So our argument to that is, well, there's not much other anything else that can happen with those cattle if we don't utilize it. So ultimately, like from a sustainability perspective, it's actually probably better off that we are utilizing them.
Definitely. And that's an argument a lot of butchers could use if they do come up against that, because it is sustainably sourced. It's a byproduct of the dairy industry. So why not get hold of it? One of the things I saw out in, I think it was down southern Sydney sometime, a veal cotoletta. This butcher down there had a pile of them in his window. He told me they sell extremely well because it's like pan size. He cuts them really thick and then they just bash the heck out of them. They slam them right down so they're really big size schnitty on a bone. And it looked really, really cool. People look for that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, you've got those options when you go out to dinner in some nice restaurants, and quite often people do want to replicate those sort of things at home.
Yeah, definitely do. So when it comes to cooking products, you've got a pretty handy team there in the shop. I've watched some of your socials, quite hilarious actually.
Yeah, a bit of fun.
You've got to have fun, don't you?
Oh, yeah, that's right. I mean, we spend a lot of time together in the shop, and probably, we quite often say we probably spend more time with each other than we do with our families. So, if we can share the enjoyment that we have at work with our customers, it's just another way they can engage with us.
Yeah, and they obviously enjoy it too. You get many comments from some of your customers?
All the time. Like, I guess sort of, the things we're doing in socials at the moment it's relatively new. We've only really launched into it in the last month or so, and the feedback we're getting constantly, and I'm getting it from customers in the store. I'm getting it from my friends. I'm getting it from families at school. Constantly they're talking about it. So it's great to know that it is getting seen, and hopefully that means we're engaging some new people who may not have known about us, and hopefully they either walk through the door or order online and get something delivered.
How is your online business? Is that a good part of the shop?
It's still early days. We're probably 12 months into that journey. It was sort of something that has been on my mind for a long time, but I guess implementing it has been a lot of work. I've been fortunate that I've been able to spend a lot of time on it myself this year, while the team have been sort of running the shop without too much input from me. I think obviously it's a way people are getting used to do their shopping, and it obviously works for the supermarkets. They wouldn't be doing it if it didn't. And so for us, it was like, how do we tap into it and getting our head around the fact that it is a different way of selling. And ultimately, the customers that we find that are utilising it aren't necessarily the ones who we see walking in the door every day. So we're sort of hoping that then as it grows, it sort of expands to a different clientele base than what we've already got. But then having said that, the amount of times we get people walk into the shop holding their phone going, I want one of these. And so while it hasn't directly led to a sale through the online store, it means people are browsing our products at home, finding out, gosh, I didn't realize you guys did something like that. So, it almost becomes a menu that people can browse in their own time without having to look through the shop when they might be in a rush and, just coming in for their regulars.
Yeah, that's very true. With the data that we see, yes, we know online shopping is increasing big time, but the fresh category with the supermarkets isn't tracking so well. And there's a good reason for that, because you've just got people looking at a piece of paper or a menu there saying one packet of cutlets, and they just grab what the pickers grab what's on the shelf, and it's not their fault. It's the quality that's out there. So more and more people are steering away from buying fresh online, and they're going back, either going in store themselves or they're going to the butcher. And I think that's one part where I think butchers have picked up a little bit of that trade, is because of that reason, because it's so inconsistent what you're getting. And sometimes you might be planning a dinner, and you want something, and you've got your order come in from the supermarket. Say you wanted some tenderloin steaks, some fillet steaks. They're not in the box, because they didn't have them. They haven't thought to, what else can you have? That's the beauty of being a butcher. You've got that opportunity, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's always been one of the big sticking points for mine with getting into the online space is, how do we offer what we offer in store in such a different way? It's been a challenge, but we're sort of trying to improve it all the time. And the big thing, actually, what my fruit and veg guy, he does a little bit online as well. And what he said, funnily enough, my customers, when they order online, I make sure they're getting the best stuff possible, because I want them to utilize the service and not be scared off of it, because the supermarkets tend to stuff it up.
No, definitely. Was it hard to set up the online business? Was you obviously had to get photographs done and all that? You do that yourself, or did you get somebody to do all that?
Yeah, so a lot of everything that's on there is I have done myself. Photographs is the one thing we did outsource. He's actually the guy who's doing a lot of our social media work now. We'd sort of worked with him on a few different things over the years, and I got him in to make it look good, because again, people come into our store and look at our products and shop with their eyes, and they've got to be able to do that online too. So it was the one thing we did outsource. I'm fortunate I've got a little bit of a tech background. My father was in computer technology, so I was sort of brought up around it. So a lot of those sort of things come a little bit more naturally to me, but it still was a learning curve. But the great thing these days, things like YouTube, ChatGPT, the answers are out there. You've just got to know what you want, what to find out.
ChatGPT or Copilot, whatever you're using, that is a one handy tool. I use it sometimes. I'll punch in an email and then I say rewrite it, and that rewrites it. And it's the same with looking for things. AI can be a very useful tool if you use it properly, but finding out about different types of steaks or finding out about a different cuisine, it dives right in and gives you a lot of answers there, doesn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. I think the biggest lesson I've learned over using it a fair bit this last 12 months is, it's not going to do the work for you. You've still got to do the work. It's about furthering your understanding of something. So if you've got to ask it questions and prompt it along, and it works really well when you utilize it for something like that.
Definitely. Cooking instructions from your team. Do you give the team some training on that, or are they just sort of naturally good at selling things, selling product, and know a bit about cooking?
Yeah, I guess being working in this game, you're generally interested in food. But then some of the younger ones, it becomes purely training and getting your head around trying to figure out these things and giving your customers a rough idea on what they should be doing. And ultimately, it just comes down to experimenting yourself at home, which is good. A lot of the guys do that. And then, that repetitive nature of understanding how to cook and what works well and what doesn't.
Are you open to them coming to work with different products to try in the shop?
Yeah, like we have certainly done that over the years. I'm not necessarily the one with all the ideas, so it's good to get inspiration from lots of different places. And I guess that's where, we were talking about the trends before. Sometimes that's where the trends come from is, someone's mentioning, hey, I saw this online, or, I had this at a restaurant. It'd be cool to do something like that.
Now for the curly one, asparaginopsis, mate. That was the main reason I was down in Adelaide the other week. We went to Chianti.
It was, Chianti.
And had a great meal of beef there. We learnt a little bit about what's happening. So you want to tell us a bit about what you're doing there, mate?
Yeah, so we were approached by a company called CH4 Global, who grow asparaginopsis seaweed. That seaweed is then turned into a food supplement for cattle. And as the cattle eat that, it reduces their methane output by up to 90%, which is a huge improvement on what is a big issue for our industry and I guess many industries across the world. And they approached us about becoming the first shop in the world to be selling beef that's been fed this asparaginopsis seaweed. So we've been doing that now for probably 2.5, 3 months and getting some great feedback from customers about obviously their opportunity to be more sustainable when they're purchasing their meat.
So methane's produced by cows. It's generally coming from the burping, not the rear end, isn't it?
That's right. Yep. Yeah, it's a bit of a misconception that it's coming out the back end, but predominantly out the front end. And the asparaginopsis naturally prevents the methane forming in the gut of the animal. And then the fantastic thing is it has no effect on the texture, flavour or appearance of the meat. It's all about what happens during the cow's life and that improvement in sustainability and the environment.
And how have your customers warmed to that sort of technology?
Yeah, I mean, it is early days, but it's something that we know our customers are being wary of and conscious of. We've sort of gone down the line pretty early of changing over to compostable packaging. There's obviously some legislation coming in South Australia that is sort of forcing that to happen a little bit quicker for other people, but we made the jump a few years ago, even well before, because we had the trend of customers wanting to bring their own packaging materials in, and we weren't overly comfortable with that. And I don't think the health inspectors are overly comfortable with that either. So if we were going to say no to customers about that, we needed to provide an alternative for them. And then we quickly became, well, Hannah, if we're going to do this for a few customers, we may as well do it for everyone and do our bit for improving the environment.
Yeah, I know the butchers in Sydney, and I don't dare say it's nationwide, that they're all being encouraged to sort of look at that sustainable packaging. There's so many different types that you can use these days. It doesn't have to be plastic. It can be something a lot more environmentally friendly. A lot of the dry goods suppliers have quite a range of different products.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Master Butchers here in Adelaide have really jumped on it as well. They've sort of helped make that transition a little bit easier. I think the big part is for a lot of butchers is it's not perfect yet, particularly when you're so used to doing things in a certain way and using particular packaging. It is a bit of an effort to change and get your customers used to it, get your staff used to it. But once you do jump into it, it becomes the norm. And the great thing is there's improvements coming all the time.
I haven't been in Adelaide I haven't really had a good look around Adelaide at a lot of the shops over the years. But when I was down there, I noticed there was quite a few shops in strip shops like what you're in, rather than shopping centres. Yes, there is most of the time there is a butcher shop in a shopping centre, but the majority of them are in strip shops. So why do you think that is?
I guess probably a lot of the inner city suburbs, sort of long established suburbs from, the early 1900s and 1950s, 1960s, those sort of things, where you found a lot of butcher shops scattered all over the place before there was a supermarket every 5 minutes. And so, a lot of them have stuck around, which is great. I think, Adelaide being that 20-minute city you're not too far from really anything. And I guess, a lot of the butcher shops then sort of lend themselves to being part of the communities that are in.
Yeah, we struggle, I know, in areas in Sydney over the years, like one stage where one of my shops was, there was 7 butchers in there when I first bought the shop, and I was the second last one to go out of there, and the attrition rate was extremely high because I think around about 25 odd years, probably 30 years ago, there was around about 10,000 butchers in Australia, independent retail butchers in Australia, and now from our best, there's nobody's got the right answer, but we figure there's probably about 3,200 left. So we've seen a lot of guys drop off. A lot of guys have gone for varying reasons. Some guys just retire and no one wants to buy the shop because we know there's a big lack of labour out there still, and this has been something that's not new to anybody because we've been living it for about the last 10 years odd. But 3,200 shops in Australia is not a bad sort of a rate of butcher shops, I suppose, but definitely there's some opportunities out there in some communities where they're just not serviced right.
Yeah, we've definitely noticed that in South Australia, the number of shops that have dropped off over the last 15 or so years. Same with Windsor Meats. We used to have 4 butcher shops on Doothie Street, which isn't a very long road. I think we're down to 2 now. So there's four groups of strip shop. They're all part of strip shops along Doothie Street. Now down to just the 2 of us. But yeah, that's pretty widespread. But it's a tough one because you're right. The attraction of getting young people into our industry it seems to be getting harder and harder. I don't have the answer for it, unfortunately. No magic bullet. But I guess the ones of us that are left, we keep making the industry look good and hopefully appealing for some younger people, because it is a great industry to be in. And ultimately, people are always going to need to eat. So food's always something a great industry to be a part of.
It's seen some huge changes in the years I've been in there. I kicked off in 77 in Central Markets there in Adelaide, and from the days of selling, just red meat, basically, in the window, having chopped steak, sausages, mince and offals, to today where you've got a selection of products like what you guys have got in Windsor Meats. It's certainly changed a heck of a lot, but it's also become a lot more of an artisanal trade, I think. And, there's a lot of butchers out there really take pride in what they're doing and like what you guys do, and just sort of make the customer feel confident what they're getting is what they want and what they need, and it's good quality. So, everybody out there, you should give yourselves a pat on the back, I reckon, because it's you guys that are there that are making the difference and keeping the dream alive and keeping the customers coming back.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's great to see around the place, different butcher shops, the way they go about doing things, looking at how they can separate themselves from the supermarkets and what they can offer, because ultimately that's what it is. We're never going to be able to compete on price and volume. They're just too big. But we can compete on being part of our communities, engaging with our customers. Those sort of things are where we can really put ourselves ahead of the game.
Yeah, work to your strengths. Don't try and discount against them because it just will not work. Just play with your strengths, service, quality and knowledge, and that's it. Just keep rocking up the work, smiling every day like you guys.
That's it. Well, I think part of being a butcher is always, we've always got a smile on our face, I think.
Yeah, true, very true. Any opportunities you think out there for the industry that's over the next 5 years, any growth sort of areas you think you might see?
I think the push to making things more convenient for people, that's always going to be something that continues to move forward. So yeah, I guess it's following those trends, understanding what your customers need. That's the way forward.
So Sam, what's your favourite cut of meat and how do you like it?
Oh, it's a great question. I tend to change all the time, to be honest. Whether it's a certain cut of steak, I'll go through phases of liking different things or enjoying different things more often than not. Same with different species. One week it might be beef, the next week it's lamb. It changes up all the time. I guess at home at the moment we probably eat a little bit simpler because we're feeding 3 kids, and the idea of cooking multiple different meals doesn't excite us too much. So we probably eat a little bit simpler at the moment, just around what they're doing. But I did always have a keen interest in cooking, particularly as a young adult when I had a bit more time up my sleeve.
Yeah, right. Mm. Yeah, I think cooking is a good thing to do at home, trying different sort of products, different sort of meats, because you can obviously get that right. You can pass that on to your customers, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where I guess that the knowledge of how to cook things and experimenting with different things that you can pass on to your staff as well, it definitely helps.
Anyway, mate, thank you very much for your time today. I really appreciate it. I got to say to everybody out there, if you're in Adelaide, go and have a look at at Windsor Meats because it's a beautiful shop. You've got a great setup there. Products, like I said, I've only been in there twice, but it was, you can't fault the place. Everything's just spot on. It'll be the sort of shop that I'd be shopping in to go and buy my food, that's for sure. Because, like you said before, we buy with our eyes, and there wasn't anything in there that I wouldn't buy, I think. Look, Sam, thanks a lot for your time today, mate. I really appreciate what you're doing out there. I really do love your shop. It's a real credit to you and the team because, I've only been in there a couple of times, but it's the same. It's been the same both times. Just looks spectacular. Everything's set out nicely. That you said earlier, we buy with our eyes, and I certainly would. If I had more room in my bag, mate, I would have been going home with a lot of meat.
Oh, mate, no, appreciate you dropping in and having a chat today too. It's always good to hear different things and hear what other people in the industry are doing. So we love listening to the podcast too.
Oh, thanks, mate. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Doug.
This podcast is provided for information purposes only. The MLA Group strongly recommends that listeners exercise discretion and obtain professional advice before relying on any information in this podcast.